morning, everyone. Thank you for being present. Thanks for being an audience who cares, because we have the opportunity on Boundless Gratitudes to interview people from all different walks of life, all different upbringings, all different economic statures, different spiritual perspectives and growths and challenges. And when it comes down to it, we're all on the same path. What is that path? It's about learning, living, growing, and connecting. And so we have, and loving, as my beloved wife reminds me. Thank you, honey. And we have the pleasure today of an individual by the name of Robert. Robert, what's your last name?
Chesnosky.
Chesnosky.
It's a Polish name.
All right, got it.
Good Polish.
And Robert has been living on the streets. Is that the right way to put it?
Unhoused.
Unhoused. Okay, unhoused since 2010. And so it's almost 13 years. He's got it down to the day and the hour as to how long he's been houseless. And my wife Janna, and he met in 2015 at Starbucks. And they've maintained a connection over the years. Janna's always appreciated his very bright and lively and engaged countenance, and a dedication to living life in integrity, in forthrightness, and in care for others and the environment. Am I on?
Yeah, I have great concern for our world. I see it as one world.
Yeah. Thanks. All right, so of course, me being the prolific interviewer here, who continues to mature in this process, I've got a number of questions for Robert, who has graciously given us his time to be here with us, about 45 minutes. And let me start here. So Robert, how many years, we've already answered that question. Yeah. I guess I was going to ask you how many years you haven't had a dependable home base. Yeah. You make your home base on a daily basis.
Pretty much, yeah. You basically don't know what's going to happen next. And you just have to adapt. And you have to be very adaptable, because, like I said, things could change in a split second. You know? Yeah. And you don't. There's not a whole lot of support groups out there, less than you would think. You know, because people think, oh gosh, it's going to cost money. Oh, do we really want to help this guy? You know, a lot of people have that attitude. You know, yeah. And also there's a profiling that if I sit down in a group of people, you know, some will get up and leave. You know, we don't want to sit near this guy. You know, they don't even know me, but they judge you just on your appearance. You know, oh God, was he a drug dealer or something? You know,
or he's homeless, and there's something wrong with that.
Oh, yeah, he's got some kind of mental illness, and this one guy who was homeless told this man he was homeless, and the guy said, "Okay, if you're homeless, you're a thief," right to his face, you know, because I would not steal another person's stuff, because that just like in the Old West, if you stole somebody's horse, they hung you, because that was the transportation. You know, I would never do that to a person. I would never take their stuff, you know, because the higher power season doesn't like that.
Got it.
I'm trying to win my way to wherever it is, whatever you want to.
Wherever we're going.
Yeah, it's very important, because I love people, and it's very important that I show kindness and respect to people. It's very important.
Yes.
Very important to me. You know.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
And can you give us some background as to your life and your education, like in a just a sort of a synopsis?
I graduated from high school in January 1968 from Hiram Johnson, where my mother also taught. She was a teacher.
That's for David.
We moved around.
I was a Hiram Johnson graduate.
So you remember Mr. Chappelle, the principal? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't remember him. No. Okay.
Mr. James was the other,
And you're 73.
So yes,
And I'm 73.
Yeah.
And we graduated at the same time then.
my counselor was Donald Yost.
Okay, I remember.
Yeah, he wore glasses, well, anyway, that was a good high school. Then later, they got a reputation of being kind of a tough school. One of the teachers was hung. Kind of. My mother was horrified. She quit in 1968, right after I graduated, and then she was doing homeschooling for a boy that was kind of like retarded a little bit, and then she studied law by correspondence. LaSalle, but then they went out of business, and so she studied a little law down here at Lincoln Law School, but she had to quit.
Excuse me just a minute. So the question was, I lost track of the question.
Honey, we're in the middle of the interview, so when you're asking questions like this, it's really not helpful.
I just
okay.
wanted to stick to the question. Okay.
So she had to take care of.
This is life. There's no show here, only authenticity, so thanks for your patience. Okay.
She had to quit to take care of her aged mother, and she never really got back to it. But my mother was brilliant. She was a notary. She could have been a CPA if she, if she were still alive, I would never have been homeless. She wouldn't. But you see, all my relatives were dead. The ones who, my daughter and I are unfortunately estranged, because she went with her mother and she heard what a rotten bum I was. They get one side of the story only, and that's just the way it is. So I haven't seen her in 20 years, and but that's life. I don't go near her because the other men on the street make the mistake. Oh, I got drunk and I went back and threatened my ex. So she had to put a restraining order. They'll never have to do that with me because I stay completely away from because street people do have the reputation of getting angry and going and trying to kill somebody, and because I said, you're never going to get better, but that behavior, dude, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, you some of these people don't even try, they just.
So going back,
yeah,
you live with your mom until when?
Until she died, January 15, 2003. She left me.
Okay.
We had a sort of a mobile home, sort of.
Yes.
She left it to me, but it was deteriorating because it had faulty. It was not well built, and she could have sued the company that built it, but she didn't. And pretty soon, rain. We had that real bad rain, El Nino. All the high winds of the late '90s, and it damaged the roof. And so I when I finally I was there until August 29th, 2006.
All right.
And then I got 7 payments behind in the mortgage. The Kensico company came and booted me out.
Okay, and that was it. And then you were on.
No, I went to live with this family that I took care of their. I did kitchen, cleaned up their kitchen, and when the lady gave parties in the backyard, which she did often, I had to put all the tables and chairs away. Sometimes I'd be up all night long cleaning up after her. She went to.
So you worked for them for how long?
4 years, almost 4 years.
And then you left.
Because they were moving to a new location, and I was going to lose my personal freedom of coming and going.
Okay.
Also, the lady wanted me to make her my payee, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to retain control of my finances, because I've heard some. You basically sign your life away, and I didn't want to do that.
So how did you end up out without a home?
I just walked away from them one day. Then when they weren't around, and I walked all the way from Elk Grove to downtown Sacramento. I was a walker in those days. Yeah. And I lived on J Street for a few years until I got it. Then I got an apartment in 2012. That was nice to begin with, but then they started bringing some very hardcore people in, and it deteriorated.
How did you have enough money to rent an apartment?
Well, it was government.
Oh, government.
Yeah.
But then the caliber of the people moving in just became
the good people
untenable.
moved out, and people that they moved in. That one guy committed suicide in the apartment right next to me, and the other guy had AIDS, and there was fist fights in the lobbies, and
so it was time to move on.
It was time to move on. Park Place. It used to be the El Mirador Hotel on N Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you moved out, what happened? You decided to live on the street, or you
I went back to J Street near the donut shop. You know,
Starbucks.
yeah, right. I had been there from 2010 to I'd been there for 2 years, 2010 to 2012, and then I just simply went back there, which angered a lot of people. They didn't like the fact that I came back. You know,
you come back, so you're coming back to a space that you need to sleep, to rest,
right?
And there are other people. Basically, there's competition on the street for the space.
And the residents are the ones that
the residents.
They didn't like the idea that homeless people were in
the parking lot.
It wasn't really a parking lot. It was just sort of passageways, and there was one guy named Lee who was living in the back of a building, and he's in a facility now. They finally took him away. And, this older Vietnam vet who's pretty mentally ill. I mean, he thought there was a government plot against him and all that.
Next question.
So they moved you. They were responsible for.
I relocated to where I am now, to Q Street.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So so you have a steady place that you stay at. That's not a home, not a traditional home, but it's a place that's safe for you at this point in the game.
There are no safe places, but I'm familiar with it, and it's safe enough. I was there last. It's just this monstrous weather. It's hard on me. I couldn't breathe last night. You know,
As it said, at this point in the game, yesterday was 109. Day before was 115. This is Sacramento, California. Today it's going to be 108. And no matter who we are, being outside in this kind of temperature is a bit wearing.
Yeah, and then tomorrow is the last one, and then after that, no more triple-digit days in the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
But it's funny, David. Nobody saw this heat wave coming. No, they weren't talking this way in August. There's going to be a terrible heat wave. You know, isn't that funny?
All right.
All right.
Here we go with another question.
Mm-hmm.
As per my wife, beloved Janna, she states that you are well versed in art, in history, in literature, in music.
Yes.
How is that? What's
I have a photographic memory. I'm an autodidact, meaning I'm self-learned. I spent a lot of time in libraries. I didn't do well in school, but remember, Albert Einstein hated school also. You know, school can be very dull, and I picked up from my own. Like around 1970, when I was living in my mother's house, I would just be, instead of out dating girlfriends, I was in books, classic books, and there are very few classic authors I haven't encountered. Very, very few.
Well, you have a friend named Dan. Who is he's a male nurse, I believe.
Yeah, except he works at home now behind he's not a caregiver anymore. He works behind a laptop.
And you met him at Starbucks around the same time that you met Janna?
A little bit before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you and he share a loved interest in music.
Right. He collects classic rock albums. You know, I grew up with the Beatles, so.
And you could have a conversation with him about innumerable artists and their latest and
pretty much
and their numerous popular sounds.
He's real big on Pink Floyd and people like that. You know. Oh yeah.
How about you? What's group? What are groups that you gravitate?
The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Moody Blues.
Yeah.
That group. And then some of those later ones like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. He's a big Neil Young fan. And
how do you get to listen to
James
music
Taylor
now?
and
how do you get to listen to music now to feed your soul?
My phone.
Your phone.
Yeah.
You have a phone.
YouTube. Yeah.
Okay.
I have to keep it hidden away much of the time and turned off though, because people will see that and just, what about your phone? And I said, you mean, can you steal my phone?
And you bought your phone.
Dan bought it and I paid him back in full.
Yeah.
And the people that were giving him looks like you'll never get your money back out of this character. Well, guess what? I did, and you know something? I owed hundreds of at one time $1,200 to this motel lady. I paid it all back.
Janna told me that. You are amazing, Robert. Here's a houseless guy. I mean, he carries his home on his back. He has to make sure his place is safe to sleep on the concrete ground every night, and then fortunately you have an income through Social Security and mom and a pension that as a survivor
because she worked for this.
Death.
You know, David. The funny thing is that she also was getting a big social, like $12,000 a month, and I couldn't leave it, and she couldn't leave it to me. But you could only leave it to a spouse or somebody who's mentally ill, and which I was not. And you want to know what a bad break I got? The check came the day after she died. I had to send it back. If it had come the day before she died, I could have kept it $12,000. I could have used that.
So what was she doing for the state that she was worth that kind of a pension?
She worked for the county. My daughter works for the state. She worked for the county. She was at first voter registration, and then the air filtration, and then building permits. She knew Buzz Oates. She knew Danny Benvenuti, and she said they were just like old shoes. They'd come in and get their permits for Buzz Oates had warehouses. He converted the Crossroads Shopping Center into. I was sorry about that because I really lived there over on Freeport. You know, I guess he's dead now. Danny wanted to put up a 50-story building where the old bus depot was, and he had to cancel his plans because the economy crashed. Remember 2008? Remember Alan Cranston, John McCain? Even they were all, and then
So let me ask you this question. So periodically, you might hear me. Let's see. I don't know another word for interrupting, but that's what I do with Robert.
It's okay.
But he's okay because he loves his stories and he gets going. So I got to keep him on track.
Yeah, I know.
The word is interject.
My wife just said the word is interject.
Anything that you have to do, please do. Just like I said.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. So, when you realized that you weren't going to live, that you were going to be living on the street, was that scary to you, or
the first night was scary? But when you see that you can get through it, but you never forget that first night. It was very scary. It was terrifying, but I got through it, but you have to learn. You cannot. Homelessness will not let you grow old. You have to stay young, or you'll never survive.
Yes.
You can't think of yourself as being in your 70s. You have to think of yourself as being in your 20s.
Because you have to be on guard.
1,000% of that.
And vital to stay alive.
Because these people come through and they see if you're asleep, they'll grab your stuff. I mean, because they need it for drugs.
Yeah.
They need anything that can convert into. Drug addiction is a terrible, terrible problem now.
Robert, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
I'm going completely off course in regards to my interview questions. You just stir these questions for me, and I see you as you have a bright visage about you. You know, for a 73-year-old guy, you got gumption, you got a sense of humor, you got vitality, and you have a faith. And
you have to have those things or you won't survive.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. I can show you guys out there, they look like skeletons. They're ready to drop dead. They're in such bad shape. And guess what? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
They just said, well, you chose it. Too bad.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you ask yourself sometimes why I'm alive? Why am I living this way? What's my purpose?
I think that the higher power put me out there for a reason. I don't think things happen for no reason. For some reason, maybe I could bring hope to some people out there. They could see that I'm doing pretty much okay for my situation, and maybe it might inspire them to give it another try. Because some of those people, frankly, have given up. Yeah, they're so confused, and one guy just wanders around in the streets all day long, and that to me that doesn't add up to a whole lot. You know, I could never do that. I'm interested in people. I want to meet new people all the time. Connections are very, not because I'm going to panhandle off of them or anything, because they always think, oh, he wants money.
Yeah.
No. I love people. People are expressions of God, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I love, we were not put here, this is not supposed to be hell. It isn't heaven either. But we can make it better than it is if we just try a little harder, because we have a beautiful world. You know, and I've gotten very close to animals. We have such a beautiful world, and people don't realize what a beautiful world we have.
So Robert, you've been through some challenges in your life.
Oh yes.
You've been through some difficulties. You've been through some fearful experiences.
I was beaten up on April the 8th by a guy that said I was from the government and I was paid to follow him around, and he said, "Now I'm going to kill you," and he had maniacal eyes, you know. But I heard later that he got beaten up, and he and another guy that was with him, they've been kicked out of the county. They were caught with, I think, illegal drugs or so.
So basically, you have an indomitable spirit to thrive with so little.
I just refuse to give
and
up.
you see yourself, as living a purpose in life.
Yes.
And how you live your life is an example to others in a comparable situation, how they might be able to live with a sense of appreciation for what they have and who they are.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not always successful.
Yes.
But I'm not going to give up.
And then your faith gives you a real bastion of strength within.
I just feel that the higher power is looking out for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that all this will all make sense one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So let me ask you this: what's your morning coffee? So you still go to Starbucks in the morning, not the one on J Street because that closed. You found a new one to go to.
Yeah.
Have you? And my wife said
actually, I was going there off and on, even when J Street was still. The first cup of Starbucks I actually had was the one on Alhambra. But you see, it's not. They don't like it to charge your phone, and 28th and N doesn't care. You know,
Okay.
I can plug in. You know.
And you make sure you got money for coffee on a regular basis, and you have money. Actually, you make a point of taking care of yourself. Once or twice a month in a particular way. Share with us that.
These are new shoes, but they get dirty very quickly. And on the 24th of September, I'm going to buy another pair of shoes.
Okay.
I like Pumas because they're comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing socks right now because the weather is just
Yeah.
awful, and it would suffocate my feet.
So how is it you have money on the 24th of September? It's just
I borrow money from. I'm going to borrow $120 from Dan.
Okay.
40. You know,
Got it.
and later in the month. And then on October the 1st, I pay it all back, and plus I'm going to. I guess I'm not talking out of turn here. Jade, I'm going to give her $100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then $200 on her birthday. You know,
Okay.
because she's such a sweet child.
This
you know?
is our.
He's her godfather.
This is our granddaughter. Through my son, and there's no talking him out of his spirit to give, even though he has. Most of us would think he has so little to give, and yet with the heart that he has, whatever money he's got becomes limitless in regards to his freedom and choice to share it. It amazes me.
Well, thank you.
Keep going, buddy.
So yeah, and then of course Mr. Smith is going to be all paid back on because it's a business deal with him. You know, he's a friend, but I can't just take his money. You know, I pay him back, and I'll have new clothes again, and I'll go back to the motel for about 3 days, not 6 days. That was my birthday. That's why I was in there and also I had to be because the temperatures. Let's face it, early October they're not going to be 100 degrees.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So basically, your treats, what I understand, is the coffee, get new clothes once a month once your checks come in, and then connecting with people, and there's something else I'm missing. Listening to music, reading books. And how is it walking in town?
I kind of hurt. I had hip replacement surgery, and I'm not the walker I once was.
Yeah.
And I walk it with discomfort. So there's certain areas I just stay away from because it's just all like that. The park at between P and Q on 28th is getting to be just all drug dealers now. It depresses me to be. It used to be a nice park too.
So when you're done with your morning coffee, and what does a day look like for you?
In a normal day when the temperature isn't so outrageous, about 9 o'clock, after I no longer have to use the bathroom so many times, I go to Fort Sutter Park. I lie there under the juniper tree near the wall and just sort of rest and that's actually since sometimes I have trouble sleeping at night. That's actually much needed rest. And people walk by me, and some of them I know. And some of them are not pleased to see me.
And others are.
I have to be honest. Some of them are just wonder. They let him in still. They have that attitude.
Does that bother you when you get
a little bit? But I can't let it throw me.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it won't change. People believe what they're told. The media, like for example, when the newspaper has a story about a homeless man, they always show the kind that looks like he's murdered 10 people. He's just out of prison, and they get this idea that everybody's hardcore. Well, they're not. There's 7 different levels of homelessness, and I think I'm on the top level, and the people on the bottom level. The police see it as all one and the same.
Yes.
So they put you in with some guy that might put a knife in you the next minute.
So, and yet where you are, where you're sitting up against the wall, there are other people that come by that you're able to say hello. They say hello to you.
Yes.
So people, you're not just discarded as a piece of waste by everyone. It's just like it's life for all of us. Some people we like, some people we don't. We all get judged. We all get castigated. We all get appreciated from different people.
And sometimes we ourselves are our own worst critics.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wish I could be out there making an honest dollar. It bothers me that even at my age, there's things I could be doing.
So what happened for you that you were not able to secure a profession that in which you could stay?
Something, after my marriage collapsed, I was my mother's caregiver for the last 21 years of her life, and at first that didn't involve much, but then she eventually ended up in a wheelchair and had to stop driving, and she just needed me, you know what I mean? And if I had, but then my finances got so closely tied up with hers that it didn't prepare me for life on my own. I just sort of crashed after she. I just fell into poverty, But I needed to. I'm not blaming anybody. I should have done more. I should have prepared for my. I don't know why I didn't. I guess that's a form of mental illness right there.
Okay, and yet you are not a person. You are the last person to have your hand out.
Yeah,
I don't like a person to have your hand out. You take care of yourself. You've just chosen this particular lifestyle. Probably. I can see why you'd wonder sometimes what your purpose in life is, why you are in the position you are, because you could have made other choices and you've made this choice, and it's okay with you, not necessarily always pleasurable, but yet it's okay.
Yeah, but I do eventually I am going to get someplace to live. I mean, I don't want to die on the street. A lot of those guys are going to, they're going to. That's just a fact,
Yeah.
And I've seen a few that come into Starbucks. I can almost predict that some of them don't look so good, And I don't know how good I look. But I mean, I guess I look pretty good,
I see him up close. He's got a pretty damn good complexion. He's got color in his cheeks. Certainly, he's got vitality, as you can well see.
Not very many wrinkles.
And you're able to walk here, there, and everywhere, and keep and maintain an attitude of openness to what's next.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, most of the time I'm successful. I have my bad days just like anybody,
I have to go to my doctor appointment.
Oh,
You guys are doing
okay, Janna.
Do you take advantage of any social services?
You know, I did, but it just didn't work for me. You know, because they want to put you in board care with a bunch of maniacs. You know, it's just like I don't go to cooling centers because I call them cuckoo centers. You see the people you're trying to get away from, and they have to put up with it because they're classified as mentally ill, and they have to let them do it. They can't come down on them, and they were calling the paddy wagon every 5 minutes in this one. I just said I don't need this in my life.
Yeah.
You know, this is degrading.
So how do you handle it when it's really cold?
I just put another hoodie on. You know,
Okay.
I got one already, and oh yeah, I'm eventually gonna buy a second one. You know,
Just so you know, this is rather an informal interview, folks. My wife is has been in the background, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much she would need some attention. She's not clingy by any means. It's just, life's going on and she kind of forgets that there's a program here, a format. So I just said goodbye to her because she's on the way to the chiropractor. She threw me a kiss and all is well. And thank you for being present with us. Every day.
I don't think you better say goodbye again because there she is.
Oh, lordy. Okay. Well,
As Jimmy Durante said, everybody wants to get into the act.
So let me ask you this. What are the most significant challenges in your life?
Having enough to eat is one of them. That's a very real, having enough spending money so that if I want to get a bottle of Coca-Cola, I'm a kind of a Coca-Cola freak, although after I had 6 bottles while I was in the motel, so I'm kind of backing off of that for a while because, that can be damaging if you drink too much of that stuff.
That's
right. My mother said, Coca-Cola, they clean toilets with that. But Pepsi's a little bit easier on your, just a little bit, Oh, if you think I'm something, you should have met my mother.
And you are one of the more fortunate houseless individuals because you have a Social Security check and you have a residual pension.
Yeah. Well, all Social Security does is they just pay it up to a level. In other words, since I'm getting $749 from one group, they just give me like a couple, 200 or 300 just to. Actually, I'm getting $1,100, $1,115.94. But I usually just get $1,100. I give the rest to the bank because I do have to take out loans because I just to be able to survive. The bank never gives me more than $500. I asked for $600, they deny me.
So you work with a bank.
Wells Fargo.
You have a bank, and they actually loan you money, even though they know you're houseless.
Yeah. They've been doing it for years
because they trust you. Because you come through.
When my money comes in, they get it back, and I took out another loan. If I ever come into a huge amount of money somehow, though, I'm gonna cut out the loans. You know what I mean? But I need them right now to survive.
Understand?
Motels, I think, food is terribly expensive. I get most of my food from the co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to go down to Safeway. It's not a safe place.
Yeah.
It's not safe in the daytime. At nighttime, it's worse. You could get murdered down in there. There's some really, really bad people down in the Safeway.
The co-op, though, is good food, and you know what good food is, and it's acceptable company.
I have a friendship.
Accepts you.
I have a friendship with several of the people that work there. That they've taken an interest in me. I'm on good terms with the security people.
Yeah.
But they got people drifting in that they have to kick out, and especially the bathrooms.
Yeah.
When they'll go up there and sleep, and one guy was actually on the floor covered by a blanket. Can you imagine in the toilet? Can you imagine? Like, it doesn't occur to them that other people have to use the bath. That doesn't connect in there. And that's the rebellion.
You've made a point.
Yeah.
In this, you've created your own community. So you have places you can go to the bathroom. There are people that you can borrow money from because they know you will pay them back.
Right.
There are places that you go that you can where you can enjoy the ambience of the atmosphere and say hello to others and be accepted and not be kicked out.
Right.
So you've created an acceptance for for your lifestyle
That's why
by quite a
the hardcore
diversity of folks.
the hardcore group of homeless people, I want nothing to do with those people. They do things I don't approve of. It's all dope and they hate me. I'll be honest with you. They hate my guts.
What are your key? We talked about your did we talk about your challenges?
Mm-hmm.
Being just being accepted by people, and dealing with unsafe people, and having enough money to
be able to do what I want to do.
Have some simple joys of life, including a Coca-Cola or a burger.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm not a huge burger guy anymore. I was when I was growing up. Oh yeah, I used to eat it all.
You go to the co-op. Co-op's not. It's not. It intimates that you may care about other forms of protein other than beef.
Yeah. I what I do is I get burritos. And they don't seem to be having those so much anymore. But I mean, the sub sandwiches, I'll get a Subway because they're a little bit cheaper than.
So you'll eat beef, chicken, turkey, or are you more vegetarian?
Chicken? Not really. Chicken, beef, and turkey is okay, but I think in the future I'm going to become a little bit more of a vegetarian because they seem to be healthier and they seem to live longer. And living a long time is very important to me because there's a lot of things I still want to do with my life.
What?
I want to get married again.
Yeah?
I want to have a couple more kids.
People houseless, homeless, on the streets, and here's a man who has dreams. Now that's an attitude. He holds an attitude that many of us can appreciate, because without an attitude of aspiration, without an attitude of dream, without an attitude of possibility, then what's the point of living? And you keep on going.
I see so many people on the street all day long. They're like, I mean, they've given up, and that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
I just, I feel for those people, but if you try to talk to them, then they start snarling at you. They go into a rage, become enraged. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I just kind of leave those people alone because I don't want to get beaten up again. It wasn't fun. 10 punches to the head wasn't. I was just lucky he didn't have a weapon, or I would have been killed. Because my face was swollen. I had blood. I didn't go to the doctor though, but I went to the Starbucks bathroom and the bleeding stopped, but the swelling took about a couple of weeks to go down. And I took a picture. I posted it on Facebook. I do a lot of Facebook postings, and I do social media a lot because that's part of my world also.
So you have a notable audience with whom
Instagram, Facebook, and I never did Twitter. You know, and I didn't want to read Trump's Twitters. Well, anyway, and so I keep in touch on Messenger. I've got. Later today, I told him I'd be free in the afternoon. I said I have an appointment in the morning. I said in the afternoon I'll be free. Maggie, who used to work at Starbucks, and her boyfriend are going to take me out for a birthday meal. So,
all right.
So there's another important contact. I said in the middle of the afternoon. So so later I'll check my phone and see if she's Yeah. And if she can't do it today, we'll probably do it tomorrow. She moved out of town, so she's not here all the time.
Do you have a spiritual connection in your life? Is it traditional Christianity? Is it more spiritual in terms of a connection with a source within that that you for which you have faith, that you trust as an integral part of life?
It's more of a self thing, but I feel very, very close to Jesus.
Okay.
That he's very important in my life. Much more so than when I was growing up and I was a Roman Catholic. I just took the whole thing for granted. It was all part of a ceremony. But you see, when you get on the street, you'd better get a connection to the higher power, or you're not going to survive.
Why is that important? Why do you say that?
Just because it will get you out of when you're in trouble, it'll get you out of trouble.
How
like,
so?
Let me give you an example. This one, I really believe this. This one guy pushed me one time at Starbucks, and later that day, he got knocked to the floor. What goes around comes around.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But in return, the higher power he wants to see things from me. He wants to see progress.
Yeah.
He doesn't want me taking things for granted. You know.
Yeah.
I have to keep up my end of the bargain too.
Yeah.
And I every before I have my cup of coffee, I always make the sign of the cross. And I say the Lord's Prayer.
Yes.
For getting me through
Were you
another
brought
night.
up Catholic? To know the sign of the cross?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not a Catholic anymore, but I still use the.
Yeah.
And I say the Lord's Prayer, which is a very powerful prayer. I say that every morning. Thank you, Lord. I love you. Thank you for getting me through another night. And you know, he wants to be acknowledged. And also, if I have leftover pennies, I donate the pennies to him because it's an acknowledgement. He doesn't care if it's 1 cent or $1 million. It's a cent. You know, it's an acknowledgement that's important. You know, and I have this homeless friend. His name is Angel. It's a guy. Every now and then I'll give him a few dollars to get coffee because he's addicted. He's an alcoholic, and he never has any money. And I feel sorry for him. I'd like to see him get clean and sober, but but he's just. Last time I saw him, he didn't look so good.
Yeah.
It's going around in circles, you know. And you see the treatment centers; they all cost money. You know, in other words,
what do you mean they cost money to you?
No. If you want to go and get clean from alcoholism and drug, like the Betty Ford Clinic, it favors rich people. You know, so let's face it.
Okay, so they're not set up specifically for people who are on the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't seem to be. You know, maybe someday they will be, but just the way I see things right now, they don't seem to be. You know, you have, and also they treat homeless people terrible at these hospitals. They go in the emergency room saying, the police will tell them, get away from here. You know, it used to be that you could go. I used to go in and go up to their cafeteria and eat lunch up there. Now they won't let you do that anymore. Because so many people are taking advantage of them that they're just very paranoid now. It's like a police zone now. You know.
So here's a question you've never been asked before. I think.
Okay.
If you had the privilege to be leader of the city for one day, and you had 1 to 3 declarations you could make that were guaranteed to be implemented, what would they be?
Adequate housing for the poor. To make sure that the county gives adequate medical, people that have problems, especially addictions. And the third one would probably be an increased these food banks, like River City, because some people are starving. They're going through garbage cans. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That they have to, and also they're picking cigarettes up off the ground that maybe some dog peed on and smoking it, and because they don't care anymore. Yeah. Have you ever seen how homeless people smoke? They smoke like chimneys. I mean, they be walking down the street, they're puffing away because it kills the hunger. You see, cigarettes. They say smoke or starve. Well, I don't like smoking. And my mother smoked for almost 40 years. Then she was getting emphysema, and she quit. She lived another 32 years, which I'm sure she wouldn't have done if she kept.
So what I hear you exemplifying is that you accept that there are people that are poor, there are people that have problems mentally, there are people that have drug challenges, and they're worth it for those who are in a better position to help them. So you're intimating really that we're all connected. Some of us have plenty and others don't. And how can we work together to assure that we're not using each other, that we're supporting and enhancing each other's lives?
You nailed it. The important thing is you don't want your money going on the next drug deal, But at the same time, you want to help somebody who hasn't eaten in 5 days or something. You don't like to see that because that's that's torture. You know, it's
Yeah.
a form of. But at the same time, you don't want him running after his drug dealer. Oh, I gave $10 to this guy one time, and he said, "Good, now I can pay up my tab at the bar." He owed money to the bar.
Well, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So, what are words of wisdom, a quote, or inspired statement which has guided your life? That you can count, that's just an endemic part of your existence. You remember this always.
That we will go on living somewhere. It isn't all about here. You know, this is just a stop along the way. You know, we're going to go through a lot of lives, a lot.
A lot of lives. Why?
A lot of phases. A lot of.
Okay.
In other words, we're not going to come to an end.
Okay.
My mother is still very much around. I pick up signals from her all the time, and she's been gone for it'll be 20 years in January.
Yeah.
And so it's just, this is just a phase, you know. And you got to remember, we're only using like about 10% of our brain power. You know, there's a lot we don't know because we're not focused enough to be able to.
So you're saying we're going to have a lot of phases, a lot of stages, a lot of lives in our lifetime. So make the best of them.
Yeah.
Live, learn, grow.
Yeah, that's my opinion. Other people maybe see it differently, and I respect that. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. You know, it's just from where I sit at the way things look. But I'm not infallible. I could be wrong. See, that's another thing. I'm capable of being wrong. People out there, the mean, nasty people, are never wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like that guy did. I'm from the government. He never questioned that he could be wrong. In other words, he's always right. When they get to that point where they're never wrong, they're.
So what is a quote or a snippet of wisdom that you share with the audience?
Okay.
Snippet.
Okay. It's be kind to your neighbor, because we were all made by, we all came from this. Actually, it's not any one thing. My philosophy actually comes from many different sources. It's hard to boil it down to one.
I like that though. You almost finished. You said be kind to your neighbor because we all come from the same God.
Right, that's right. Whether you want to call him God or Buddha or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
We're all down. We're all here for a reason. We're here to grow.
Yeah.
We're here to grow spiritually, and like I said, it's not supposed to be easy. Because that's how you grow. Life makes you strong. See, I have to remain young to survive on the street. Maybe that's the higher power's way of keeping me young. You know, because like I said, if you become old out there, you're gone. You know, you'll be lying in the gutter, and they'll come and take you away. You know, 911 gets called a lot. You know, they come. Some guy passes out and he won't. They have to treat it. They call 911. You know, and those guys they're not happy looking. They don't like getting those kind of calls. That homeless guy again. Oh, you know, one guy was so bad. They refused to come. He said, we're not handling him anymore, because he took his wheelchair and almost threw it out in the middle of the street. He was so, you know, he said, you don't do that. You know, those
everyone deserves respect, and if people continually disrespect it, at some point they're left alone.
That's pretty much it.
So, what is your foremost recommendation you have for living a fulfilling life?
Balance intellectual pursuits with the facts of everyday living, and don't expect that every day is going to be perfect, but make the most of it. Make the most of what you're given each day. Each day is another lesson in the same book. There's a lesson to be learned every day, and keep your mind open.
Yeah.
You have to keep your mind open, and don't let yourself be frustrated, and don't give in to anger, because that will just defeat the whole thing. You know, like I said, and don't self-medicate. You know, those people, that does not work. But you can't tell them that though, because that's why don't like me because they don't like the fact I'm trying to do it the right way. Their heroes are people who are rude to the police, who smash windows,
or they don't have heroes. They're just lost in a netherworld.
They're lost souls
of negativity, lost souls.
Basically, they're just like robots. They and then they fall down, and then.
So, dear audience, Robert told me that sometimes he gets on a roll in terms of his experience in life. So he said it was okay for me to interject. And thanks, Robert, for being patient with me, and so that we could do this together.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you one more question, then we'll close this. For what are you most thankful?
Just for being alive.
Just for being alive. So, dear audience, this is Robert. He's a beautiful soul. We are all beautiful souls. We're all on this journey. And remember Genshai, treat no one in a manner that would make them feel small, including yourself.
Well, can I say just one thing before you start?
Sure.
There's a movie called Sullivan's Travels with Joel McCrea. He posed as a homeless man. They didn't call him homeless in those days. You know that in the 1977 thesaurus, there's no term homeless. That came into fashion in the 90s. Well, anyway, they go to this church, and it's an African American church. And he says, "Now don't act up." He said, "We're all the same in God's eyes."
Wow. Thank you.